What I know for sure, I would say, is that people have energy in their energy fields from other lifetimes. What that means, how it got there, were you that person? What does that even mean? However it gets there, it's there. And when we release it, things get better for them.
Guy here, and I welcome to the podcast today, Art Geiser. And I really love this conversation. Art's a really grounded, good man. We dive into the topic of energy blocks, beliefs, and what is getting in the way of us allowing to live our soul's purpose, our true purpose, and living life with integrity without fear holding us back. What I like about Art, he's very grounded. We explore the mystical, spiritual aspects all the way to the practical stuff as well, and wanted to tap into his over 40 years now of experience in helping people live their true selves. That's what it boils down to at the end of the day. And of course, we get into past lives, generational trauma as well, all these things that can be affecting our energy bodies, which I feel change our energy, we change our circumstances. I'm a big believer of that. So please let me know in the comments where you are in the world watching this right now and what you think of this podcast today. It's always great to continue to connect moving forward. I'm recording this just before I leave for Bali. Our Bali retreat is sold out. Can't wait to be there. Never been to Bali before. And we've got one more Australian retreat this year in September in northern New South Wales, Australia. Registration is open. Tickets are selling fast. These always sell out. So if you want to join us in person, myself, Matt, Omar, and Petra, and understand all the mechanics of working with sound, working with breath, working with movement, how to tap into our soul, have spiritual connection, and start to live with integrity. Not about escaping to spirituality, but bringing spirituality into physical form and embracing the life that we have here. That is what we're all about. If that sounds appealing, come and join us. I promise you won't regret it. And if you're anywhere in the world as well, we do offer free meditation. There's 3 of them, morning, noon, and night, short meditations. If you're new to this work and want to embrace it, that's a great place to start with our work as well. And that is in the links in the show notes, which I always forget to mention every time I do an introduction. Anyway, let's go over to Art. Much love. Enjoy this podcast, and I'll see you soon. Art, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you. I'm really thrilled to be here.
It's wonderful, mate. And I ask everyone on the show, if you were at an intimate dinner party and you sat next to a complete stranger and they asked you what you did for a living, how would you respond?
Oh, my least favorite question. My mother used to always go, I never know what to tell people when they ask what you do for a living. And I go, I never know that either. But usually the way I introduce myself is I'm the creator of Energetic NLP, Energetic Neuro-Linguistic Programming, where I bring together the strengths of neuro-linguistic programming along with spiritual principles, healing and transformative energy work, particularly remote energy work, and intuition development, psychic development, and really everything I've learned that I find really helpful for people over the last 40 years, I've woven together.
Yeah, wow. It is. This was what fascinated me when I knew you were coming on the podcast, because I'm familiar of the term NLP. I mean, I've got an NLP book sitting on my bookshelf that's like this thick, it's like a Lord of the Rings trilogy. There was so much in it, trying to get through. I was like, wow. But that combined with the energetics you speak about and spiritual principles, that really sparked my interest, especially with some of the conversations I have on the podcast. And I'm just curious, what is it that attracted you to all of that in the first place for you?
Well, I was kind of lost. I mean, when I was really young, I was interested in 2 things, science and the powers of the unconscious mind and the mystical. In fact, in elementary school, which is, like 6 years old to 12-year-old here, I was hypnotizing my friends and doing crazy stuff. I accidentally years later gave a friend of mine an out of body experience. So after that, I thought I better learn what I'm doing. Because it actually put him in shock for a while. It changed his life for the better, but it was kind of, I thought, I may have just hurt my best friend. But I don't know. And I was interested in psychology, but traditional psychology at the time, years and years ago, was, all based on insight and what did your mother do and what did your father do? And, and if you spend 5 years or more talking about that, you might improve your life. And that just never seemed right to me. And it always seemed too absolute, like this is the way things are. And that just didn't seem right to me. And I ended up getting a degree in biology. And I was one of those people, I had no idea what I wanted to do when I grew up. So I had this belief that something one day was just going to show up and that was going to show me where to go. But I thought, well, maybe I can get a research job, which I had like minimal qualifications for, and managed to get a research job at a research lab in the University of California Medical School in San Francisco, studying what would now be called epigenetics. And I worked with great people. I was proud of what we were doing, and I knew I didn't belong there. But I just couldn't. And also, younger people aren't going to understand as well. But when I was young, it was like you had a career for life, and nothing seemed like the right thing to me. So I just stayed stuck for a number of years. I ended up managing the lab. And, everything was fine. My life was great. I had true love. I mean, everything was great, except the feeling that I'm not supposed to be doing what I'm doing. There's something else. And I went to a talk on intuition, and it was just okay. And they had a table where they were selling like 20, 30 books on intuition, which we'll come back to in a moment. And they had a break, and I went out in the hallway and I looked at a bulletin board, and there was a flyer, and I'm just reading the flyers. And one said neuro-linguistic programming. And I read the words, and literally it felt like a bolt of lightning hit me on top of the head and went straight through my midline. I mean, it felt like boom. And the scientist in me was going, what was that? And the mystic was going, what do you think it was? It was a sign. So I'm kind of stunned. And I walked back into the room and I started looking at the books on the table, and all of the books were about intuition except for one book. And that was about neuro-linguistic programming, NLP. And I thought, okay, can't ignore this. So I bought the book, and as soon as I could, I took a very expensive, very super advanced course in NLP that I had no business being in because I hadn't done any of the basic work, and everything in my life changed instantly. And also I found out I was actually, even though I didn't really know what I was doing, it was like a 5-day program, and then the next month, another 5 days. And, we don't get that many vacation days in the US. I was having to take 6 vacation days, spend all this money. And, but I thought, I'm going to do it. And, when I came back for the second 5 days, a number of people came up to me, and everybody else in the room was like therapists and NLP trainers and everything. But we would break into small groups and work on one another. And when I came back for the second 5 days, 6-8 people came up to me and they went, that work we did last time? I went, yeah. And they'd go, changed my life. And I'd go, oh. So I thought, well, I really love this. And apparently I've got a talent for it. And just everything magically took off from there. But the really great synchronicity on top of all that was this was Marin County, which is just north of San Francisco on the other side of the Golden Gate Bridge. And if you throw a rock, you'll hit an astrologer, a Tai Chi person, it's a very new agey area. And so people started teaching me about energy work and healing work, and introduced me to my first teachers, and went to my first workshop. And at the end of it, I was able to do miraculous things. And I thought, 2 days, not bad. So everything took off from there. And one of the things that I learned that I apply when I teach people is, yeah, sure, you can open people up their abilities in 2 days. That doesn't mean it's safe. So yeah, I really stress with people now, like, it's a wonderful thing if you know how to do it safely. And there's just
Yeah.
a lot of well-meaning people out there like, come to my 3-hour workshop and we'll open you up psychically and good luck, sucker. I mean, they don't mean it that way, but you can get in a lot of trouble that way.
Yeah.
In
No,
fact,
I understand.
I heard you mention on one of your podcasts that you and your partner were talking about, doing at least full day programs with people, not just like a 3-hour kind of thing. Staying alone.
Yeah. Well, we spend 5 days with people.
Yeah.
But the challenge is what we're finding in terms of ensuring getting the work out there more is not everyone can access that straight away. They've not met you before. They don't understand you. So 1 day is a less commitment. So people will come and come and experience it. It's really is, how do you, invite people into this space to then start to lean in to explore themselves, which is definitely, interesting. That I've learned a lot over the years. That's for sure. Please, if you're going to share something.
Oh, I was going to say, I think that's a really good way to do it, because in one day you can teach people, how to do it. You can teach them everything about it, but you can teach them at least the basics of how to do it safely.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so often as well, we're so conditioned to go numbing the symptoms and looking for an outside resolution of something. It's very easy to come into these environments with that mindset unconsciously. And the moment people realize that it's a process, it's a journey, it's just like eating healthy or exercising. There's parts that we want to habitually start to change and work with to see the results. I find people will fall away. They're like, oh no, I just wanted the fix.
Right.
But of course, then there's others that get it and actually want to explore themselves more and more, which seems to be what's happening at the moment in the world, I feel.
Well, and sometimes the people who just want the fix 5 years later, they go, okay, now I'm ready.
Yeah.
A lot of times it doesn't happen, but I'll have people go, I've been thinking about this for 5 years. I'm ready now.
Totally. I've had people walk into our 1-day workshops after listening to my podcast for 5 years and say, I'm actually ready now, guy.
Right. Right.
So it's very normal, So my question for you then with what you just shared is I guess when working with the energetics and the NLP, there must be a lot of crossovers and how would you explain it to someone who might not even be familiar with what you're talking about right now?
So just briefly what regular NLP is. And a lot of people have a lot of misconceptions about NLP, because like so many things nowadays, people like, you can be an NLP practitioner in 2-day program, and all this stuff. And also that there were some people teaching it as ways to manipulate people. And so there are some people who think that's what it's about, which is not at all what it's about. It was started by studying people, as I mentioned earlier, back in the days when therapy was supposed to take at least 5 years. They thought, well, how come there are 5 or 6 therapists we know of who get rapid results for people, like deep, lifelong results? So they started studying them, and they developed this whole body of knowledge, which is, it's phenomenal. It's really phenomenal. Again, if anybody ever wants to study it, get a really good teacher. Because, there's just so many people who just want to dilute it to where people think it's a bunch of techniques. And it isn't really the techniques, isn't NLP at all. They used to say that NLP produced the techniques, and NLP is the study of the subjective nature of experience, And the idea was, that it isn't so much what's happened in our lives that affects us. It's the meaning we make of it and how we process it consciously and unconsciously. So in NLP, we're looking at how is the person interpreting their results, which is why you can have, I used to like to ask men who thought they were a good father or a bad father, like, well, why do you think you're that way? And pretty much not all, most of the quote unquote good fathers would go, I had a really good father, so I had a good role model. All the bad fathers, and they describe themselves as bad fathers. Well, my father was a bad father, and so I didn't have a good role model. But some of the good fathers would go, my father was a terrible father, and I remember deciding, when I grow up, I'm not going to be like my father. And, and that's not any criticism to people who didn't do that, but it just shows you can have identical life stories, and what happens out of that, what you do with it, is all internal. And so that's one really powerful part of NLP. Another is that people talk about visualization, but they mostly are doing it in a really kindergarten way. And again, I don't mean that as a criticism, it's just the truth. It's like, oh, visualize what you want, clearly. And in NLP, we've studied in detail, like the unconscious coding system of the mind, so that, well, I'll give you a good example. Some people, they go, well, I visualize what I want, but it never happens. And if I actually delve into how they're doing it, the way they're doing it in their mind is coded unconsciously as a fantasy. Well, your unconscious mind is not supposed to operate off fantasies, or otherwise we'd be in a lot of trouble. And they don't realize it. But they're coding it as a fantasy. And if you get them to recode it, it becomes much more powerful. And you can change things like grief into acceptance, doubts into beliefs, beliefs into doubts, just by this recoding. So there's a lot of magical parts of NLP. But what it completely ignores is the strength and weakness of NLP is it treats everything as an internal experience, that you're producing your thoughts and your emotions. Well, when you study energy work, you go, no, just because you feel something doesn't mean it's yours. Just because you're thinking something doesn't mean it's your thoughts. And they're also not looking at karma and spiritual contracts and past lives and all of these different kinds of influences. So in energetic NLP, we bring that all together. And well, a good example is sometimes you'll do a healing on somebody, and you can feel like bouncing off them, even though they want it. They're going, oh, I want it. I desperately want it. And it's like their energy field's going, nope. And other times they accept the healing, but then they take it apart. And that's one time then I switch into an NLP mode. Like, what's the beliefs or programming, consciously or unconsciously, that won't allow them to accept the healing? Is it they think they are unworthy, they think they were bad, they need to be punished, good people are supposed to suffer, any of a million beliefs or programming. And
so
go ahead.
Can I ask you a question on that?
Yeah.
So I'm clear. So are you saying, for instance, you work with someone on an energy healing, so at an energetic level, and there might be an energetic blockage there or something that's manifested into physical form within their body, and then that gets cleared, that moves, that's flowing, but then there's unconscious programming or patterns that was creating that in the first place that still might be there, so it could recreate the issue over time. Would that be a fair way to say it?
Absolutely. Recreate it or something similar. Years ago, they talked about there were some studies that people that should have died, but they were saved by some really extraordinary, medical procedures. An unusual percentage of them died within a year of something else. And often when you read somebody's energy, there's a concept to not inflict a healing. And when I first heard this, I'm going, what? And I go, how could you inflict a healing? And it's not always the right thing to do. Sometimes their spirit or their soul has other plans, which is maybe to go on to something else or whatever. So sometimes then you have to work with the soul or the spirit and see if it can change its mind. Spiritual contracts, karma, all of that. So those are examples where either they won't allow it or it'll take it apart. Years ago, I was working with a man. I never met him in person. He was in a hospital in Ohio, which is far from California. And he was actually a doctor, but he was a patient. And he had some weird, rare form of leukemia. And I would work with him. And the next day, his whatever blood cell things they were measuring were incredibly better. And the doctors couldn't figure it out. But then they get bad again. And we kept doing this like up and down, up and down. And it turned out he had cheated in medical school and he hated being a doctor. So he had some guilt, and he would have loved being a doctor if he could have been a doctor the way that he really wanted to be one, but he couldn't do that. Or he didn't think he could do that. So as soon as he'd start to get better, he'd go, oh God, now I'm going to have to go back to being a doctor because I'll need the money. And his body would get bad. And then we'd get him good again. And then, oh, now I'm going to have to be a doctor. And they even at one point said, you don't seem to understand. Your unconscious would rather kill you than have you be a doctor. But finally, I turned him over to somebody who was local to him. But that's a great example of fantastic healing. Well, two other examples. In the early days of AIDS, I had two patients who were supposed to die. They were in really terrible shape. I worked with them. And you know how when you work with some people, it's fun, you love each other, and they get this amazing results. Both of them, their health got incredibly better. And we really liked being with one another. And then a few years later, I found out that both of them at some point started getting sick again and did die, but didn't call me. And I remember at the time thinking, this was back in the 80s, and I'm thinking, they really liked working with me. We got incredible results. It was fun. I mean, it was, it's like, what was going on? And now I realize there were factors I wasn't looking at, which might be included that maybe their spirit was going, you don't understand. I'm leaving, one way or another.
Yeah. I'm curious as well, because, when we start diving down the spiritual conversation, and it's come up many times on this podcast around spiritual, like contracts, karma, past lives. For me, this conversation, half my lifetime ago would have just been like, that's ridiculous. I mean, that's like, everything's physical. This is it, and it had to be kind of like mechanistic, had to, attainable. But then after self-exploration, I mentioned off air, having my own experiences and awakenings to then go in, actually, I know nothing. There's so much more to than I'll ever even wrap my head around, I think, So with your journey and experience, what's led you to sort of look at these experiences to form beliefs around them? Because, for some people they're a stretch, for other people it's just day-to-day conversation and feels very, very normal.
Well, it's funny. Even people who do energy work and stuff, they'll have what they think makes sense and what they think doesn't. And for me, I made up a term. I call it beliefs du jour. And what it means is beliefs of the day, like soup du jour. And when I teach programs, I make them take a pledge at the beginning that they're not going to believe anything I tell them. And I'll go, I don't believe what I'm telling you. This is what I think today. These are my beliefs du jour. And my goal is that you connect with your own spiritual and inner wisdom, not believe what I'm saying. And I'll go, I want you to explore what I'm saying, but I have no investment in your believing it. I have an investment in your connecting to your truth. So, but like anything else in life, often evidence starts showing up. So I was already doing psychic work and healing work, but this was again back in the 80s. But for some reason, I thought past lives was stupid, And since I was a little kid, people would often tell me there was something night-like about me, and the way I stood and just everything about me. There's sort of like a knight, and it's funny because my full name is Arthur. So and like I think when I was 4 or 5, 2 different people gave me gifts of little toy knights, and they were my favorite toys for years and years. So this guy's giving me a reading, and he's reading my chakras, which that I was into. And everything he said was right on, right on, right on. And then he goes, well, let's look at past lives. I'm thinking, oh God, past lives. And then he goes, you were a knight. And my whole body stiffened. And I asked my unconscious, I go, is that true? And I heard, yes. So that was the first time that I went, maybe this is true. And then what I do know about, and what I can say for sure, by the way, I'm getting a little bit of an echo. Are you hearing it?
No, it's okay. I had to take my headphones off because they're disconnected, but we're good.
Oh, yeah, great. Okay, good. It was something about past lives.
You spoke about the night, and then you had
the
your
night.
experience.
And what I know for sure, I would say, is that people have energy in their energy fields from other lifetimes. What that means, how it got there, were you that person? What does that even mean? I'm kind of super out there and super practical at the same time. Like say I was a researcher. It's like, however it gets there, it's there. And when we release it, things get better for them. So, I'm a firm believer that people have energy from other lifetimes in their energy field. Why it's there and stuff, I don't even worry about that. It's like,
yeah, no, that makes complete sense for sure. And I was interested. I want to bring up when I was researching off air a bit, because you spoke about as well, intention isn't enough, and that aligning your spirit, soul, conscious mind, unconscious mind, and body is what's required. So there's for me, it feels like this full alignment from source into the body, and so everything is humming.
Exactly.
And I'd love you to talk to that a bit, because it also seems such a vast terrain to cover at the same time. You know what I mean? It's like, whoa, it's like, how far do we need to go to be here now?
Well, the good news, something I can get into more later, in energetic NLP, consciously you set your intentions and give permission, but then you let your spirit and your inner wisdom be in charge of what happens, so that you're not limited by trying to consciously figure it all out. I personally believe that every system you hear is an approximation of the truth. So for example, in the West, a lot our chakras go out and they're vortexes. But in the East, often they're in the central channel and they go up and they have petals like a lotus. Well, that's two very different models. And to me, they're both true. When I look at somebody's chakras, they're like, I can make myself see them like the ways that I've been taught. But if I go, can you show me something closer to reality? They're like multidimensional and a little hard to consciously conceive of. So in energetic NLP, again, we're not into our beliefs. We're more into turn it over to my spirit and my inner wisdom and let it go beyond my concepts. Because I believe, and you probably experienced this, the more you develop personally, spiritually, the more you know that what you don't know. Which is fun if you let it be. It's great. So I created this concept called whole being permission and alignment, because people would always talk about, visualize what you want, and don't have a negative thought, as if your conscious mind is like you, which is a pretty limited assumption. And when people would bring it up in classes, I'd go, how many of you ever visualized what you wanted and it turned out terribly? And, how many of you were ever super negative and, it turned out wonderfully? In fact, that first research job, I almost didn't even call them back because I was absolutely sure there was no way they would hire me. And when I did finally call them back at like 4:45 on a Friday, because I thought, well, that's rude not to call them back, the secretary goes, well, I think Dr. Goldfein's going to offer you the job. And I'll never forget, I went, She said, she cracked up and she goes, yeah. um, and a few years ago, I had convinced myself I had all these dental problems, and I was sure I had them. And I went to the dentist, and he goes, yeah, your teeth are in good shape. And I almost wanted to argue with him. Like, it's like, no, I'm sure they're not. So I started investigating because clearly visualizing what you want can be very powerful. To me, it's like a nutrient. It's one of the things that are part of a balanced diet, kind of. And I was working with this woman who was really a nice woman, very compassionate, very smart, physically attractive. And she didn't have any problem having relationships with men. And they were good men, but none of them were men she could build a life with. It's like they were good guys, and the ones I met I liked, but they weren't what she wanted for a lifetime relationship. They weren't right for her. And I'm working on her, and all of a sudden, like, her soul pops in and it goes, I don't want that. I went, oh, okay, that's a problem. And her soul goes, I want her to be independent. In other lifetimes, she gave herself completely over to men. And so then it was a matter of trying to talk with her soul and going, are there other ways to do this? And there's a whole energetic NLP process where you get the different parts of you to talk to themselves. And the different parts are and create an alignment. So there's your individual spirit, your individual soul, conscious mind, your unconscious mind, which in NLP we would say has lots of parts to it. It's not like inner child, it's inner children, in inner wise parts and creative parts, and then your body has its own agenda. And then all of that's happening in your karmic field and within spiritual contracts. So the more you can line up all those aspects of yourself and then work with the karma and the spiritual contracts, the more things flow. And I should explain what I mean by spirit and soul, because everybody
uses that was my next question, because you said individual soul and individual spirit. And I'm like, I need to know what they are.
Yeah. And a lot of systems make a distinction between your individual spirit and soul. And people use different terms and they switch them. And so I want to be clear to anybody. I'm not saying this is, I'm not coming down from the mountain with the 10 commandments on this. This is the way I picture it and the way I work with people. And it's quite powerful. So what I'm calling your spirit are the higher frequencies of your non-physical self. The higher frequencies of your non-physical self. And you can think of it as being higher above your head. And when you're in those higher frequencies, it's a lot like the perfect parent, because your spirit sees the big picture. It knows why you incarnated, how your life is part of the unfolding of life on the planet and the universe, because everybody's life is. And it's like the perfect parent in that it will give you a lot of freedom. You want to have a lot of abundance? Well, that's a valid spiritual path. Oh, you want to create struggle and suffering? That's another valid spiritual path. So not because it doesn't care, but just like most of us want our parents to just give us all that freedom. Your soul is the lower frequencies of your non-physical self. And you can think of them as closer to the top of your head. And that part of your non-physical self is like a click above your personality. It's got fears and issues and wants and needs and things from other lifetimes, traumas that hasn't resolved. And so it has a whole different agenda than your spirit. And then your conscious mind has its own agenda. Your unconscious mind has the multiple agendas, and your body has an agenda. So we do a process to get all of those in alignment.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. That definitely makes sense from that. I'm trying to think how I can frame this question, but when we're coming up against ourselves and we're looking at getting everything in alignment and working with it, do we need to know the trauma? Do we need to know the challenges or the unconscious block that's keeping us there? Or do you view it all as purely just energy at the end of the day? If the universe is energy at a quantum level and we're just having physical form?
Well, I agree with it's all energy. And in energetic NLP would say you definitely don't need to know necessarily. So anything that will clear and heal. So in energetic NLP, everybody creates their miraculous self, which is different than their high self. The miraculous self is when your spirit with that vast perspective and your deep inner human wisdom with its practical wisdom come together and aligned to nurture you, guide you, heal you, and support you and help you manifest. And so we always set that up first, which is super easy. And then the conscious mind again sets intentions, but then your miraculous self figures out what needs to happen. So most of the time, your conscious mind doesn't need to know what the trauma was. And the truth is most of people's, and not that people don't have very real traumas, but their stories around it are stories. It's their thoughts, their interpretations, and often they turn out they're not even factually correct. But we built this whole story around everything. And we try to get away from all that and go, my miraculous self can figure out what karma, what contracts, what conscious beliefs, unconscious programming and beliefs, ancestral, past life needs to be cleared. And then we just let the energy work with the miraculous self to do that. The exception to that then is when they have a conscious belief that's definitely in the way. And so sometimes you do need to look at things. So for example, some people really do believe they're not worthy, intrinsically not worthy, or they were bad and should be punished, or that their role is to sacrifice for everybody else all the time. Well, if you consciously believe that, then you'll keep disrupting the healings and limit them or take them apart. So that's when I switch into a very NLP mode and we look at the belief and, sometimes where did it come from, but very often just get them to really look at it and do you really believe this? And sometimes it can be really funny. I worked with a woman years ago who was Catholic who believed she was supposed to suffer. And I go, well, who's one of the saints you really like? And she liked Saint Teresa of Avila. And I go, pray to Saint Teresa of Avila and ask her if she thinks you're supposed to suffer. And she starts giggling and Saint Teresa going, I don't believe that. Excuse me. So when it's useful to make it conscious, we make it conscious. But often people like when it has cleared without making it conscious, they'll want to know what it is. Like one of my teachers years ago, we would do that classes and he'd just sit there kind of scowl at us and goes, oh, just bring all that energy back in, undo the healing. It's like, it's gone. Leave it alone. The more you analyze it, the more you're bringing it back. And, but we're so trained, and I'm a great believer in analyzing ourselves to a point, but we're so trained that that's this magic sauce to everything that people are, if they can't figure out how they got better, I remember a woman one time, she came in and her relationships were everybody was not good. And we had a great session. She really enjoyed it. And she came back in 2 weeks and she goes, I really liked this session, but I'm not sure it did anything. And I go, well, let's check it out. And I go, what's it been like the last 2 weeks? And she starts describing it and she starts grinning bigger and bigger. And she goes, everybody's been nicer to me. And I go, well, maybe they all went got sessions. And she laughed and I went, just because you can't figure out the connection, it's like, just forget about that.
Just let it go. Yeah. How much do you, with your work with the chakras? And you mentioned that earlier as well, in part of with that alignment. And I'm curious as well, because let's say, I'm just trying to think, like, do you see moving energy, say there's somebody feeling certain recreative emotions constantly of guilt or shame or something that's constant in their life, and might relate back to the second chakra, for instance, right? But then would you look at removing a belief around that different to actually just freeing the energy of that chakra? Is that making sense?
Totally. So I work with chakras a lot, and if it will just change energetically and it's solid, then we don't worry about the belief, because the belief, in order for that to happen, the belief had to be changed. And something I didn't mention, we always set it up that as you're releasing these blocks and beliefs and programming, your miraculous self is giving you downloads of wisdom, knowledge, concepts, skills, abilities, attitudes, and behaviors to replace them. And like a computer download, that's coming in outside of your consciousness, but it's coming from your spirit and your inner wisdom. So, it's like, I always go, you don't need to micromanage it, But a couple of other things is, just like as with the body, when we get reductionistic and we just look at the heart. So issues with the heart can have to do with what's going on in your brain and nervous system, your glands, or digestion, or your teeth. Everything's interconnected. I look at chakras the same way. And so that certain chakras have certain main functions, but often they're reacting to things going on in other chakras. And the other thing, I don't know about in your work, but we typically work with at least 15 chakras, sometimes more. And every system has like different numbers of chakras.
A lot, yeah.
Yeah. But they're above the crown chakras, there's super important chakras in your energy field above the crown that set big frameworks for your life. There's ones below your feet. There's a number of them in your head and all over the body. So we don't limit ourselves to these 7 main chakras. I mean, people do great work that way, don't get me wrong, but I think it's a lot like when medicine was reductionistic, is they get too focused on treating things, not always, but they treating things as individual aspects, not part of a whole system. So we always try to think of it as a whole system.
Yeah. I mean, it carries out into all areas of our life, right? The way we move, the way we drink water, the way we eat, the people we hang out with, what we fill in our minds with on a daily basis. There's so many aspects to it, really, at the end of the day. I was curious to ask you as well about one, other people's energy, or energy that's not yours. What are your thoughts on that? Do you see it as our wounds, or energy that's allowing other energy to be merged with our energy fields? Sometimes you'll hear people, "Oh, I just picked up so much bad energy,"
right,
or whatever. I'd love to get your insights.
Oh, well, I'm glad you're bringing it up, because when I mentioned at the beginning about learning how to do it safely, that's a huge part of learning it safely. But it's not always wounds. So if somebody has deep programming, I'm here to help other people, then other people's energies go, oh, okay. So I was taught that everybody's the sovereign of their energy field. So if somebody's taken your energy, or they're stuck in your space, they can only do that because they're hooking into something of yours. Now, there's a lot to hook into: karma, contracts, energetic and spiritual and unconscious programming. And a lot of really good practitioners do something I think is a mistake, which is they'll clear people's energy and fill them back up, but they don't get at what we call the Velcro. Like, what was it hooked into? So I used to, back in the early 90s, I'd go to this class every week, and I was seeing a lot of clients and picking up everybody's energy like crazy. And people would clear me off, and I'd feel great. And then as the week would go on, I'd feel worse and worse and worse. And then I'd have class again, I'd feel great. And it was just this like up and down and up and down. And what they weren't teaching us is like, what's allowing the energy to get stuck in my space? Because when you work on that, it's like the roots of a weed. You pull off the top of the weeds, something can grow back. If you get the roots, that's it. So in the way that we work, we always first look at what is that energy hooked into, clear and heal that, then clear the energy. And then when you do it that way, you get like incredible benefits way beyond just clearing your energy and filling back up.
Yeah, that makes sense. And how do you get to the root then? What would be the techniques you use for that? Because that makes total sense what you're saying there, for sure.
Well, mostly we let the miraculous self figure it out, but sometimes it'll be clear that it's a conscious or unconscious belief that they're not willing to let go of it. So then I'll start exploring with people like what they believe and even things that sound silly. And then so sometimes we get it consciously, but most of the time it will just, the miraculous self can just clear it if they're open to it. But again, if they, like I say, if they believe that they're supposed to sacrifice for others, then unless they change, and I want to be clear, sometimes you have to sacrifice for others, but you don't have to go looking for it and creating it, but many of the most wonderful people in the world are just constantly creating self-sacrifice. And that way, unconsciously, they feel like they're a good person. So sometimes that has to be worked on consciously too, and they have to decide, like, do you really believe that? If you had a child, would you want your child to? That often works with people kind of go, you have children, do you want them to believe that? No. Okay, well, that's a clue.
Yeah, fascinating. Yeah, no, I like it. I'm also thinking, I'm just aware of the time, Art, as well.
Yeah.
And you actually mentioned about potentially doing a short process on the podcast, which I think would be really nice.
Great.
Maybe something that the listeners could then practice for a week or use on a daily basis just to make a connection with themselves in some way. Whatever you feel.
Well, definitely I'd like to do something. I'm just trying to think whether it's something they can practice or just take them through.
Or even a one-off now, yeah. It's whatever comes.
Let me just... Oh, okay. I think people will like this. So first they'll create their miraculous self, and then miraculous self will be put in charge. And this will be a process that will start clearing some of those roots in Velcro, something that they can, and like anything, I'm not saying it's going to get everything all the time, but you can get a lot of stuff. I should say I'm a great believer in self-empowerment and getting help. I have colleagues that for 30 years, every week we work on each other, So I just want everybody to know that, like, yes, you want to learn to empower yourself, and it's stupid to do it all yourself. It's just
we always have blind spots, and there's always people further down the path than us, and I think it's critical that we place ourselves around like-minded people and people that will see our blind spots for us as well, and not exploit.
Yeah, sometimes they're not further along than us, and they still see our blind spot.
Totally.
There was a place called Berkeley Psychic that was started by a man named Louis Boswick, and he was famous for coming in and going, "Who are the new healers?" And he'd get a healing from them. He goes, "They give the best healings because they don't know what they're doing, so they have to kind of just get out of the way." Okay, so what we'll do, everybody will create your miraculous self, and then you learn this process that will be easy to repeat, particularly you can watch the video again. It's quite simple. A couple of things. So in all the energetic NLP processes, or most of them, they're what we call energy spas. So it's like going to a spa. You have to consciously have the intention. You have to give permission for it to happen. And then you have to just relax and let them do it. In the same way, they'll set a conscious intention, add the word "or better." They'll give they'll give permission to receive the benefits, permission for their miraculous self to be in charge. And then the real key ingredient is while the process is going on, just pretend it's working. You don't need to believe it's working. Just pretend it's working. Like you were a 5-year-old and I went, oh, fill the room you're in with gold energy. You'd go, okay. And you would. And when we pretend, then we open up all these abilities. And then later, you can analyze it to your heart's content. But when it's going on, just pretend it's working. So let's imagine a giant gold ball of energy. And that's our this healing space we're creating together. And if you're watching this as a video later, just imagine this is happening real time. And you will access the energies. And let's just declare this as a space of miracles, magic, effortlessness, a space where it's easy to let go of old programming and karma and other limitations. It's a space where it's easy for your miraculous self to replace them with wisdom and knowledge and concepts and skills, abilities, attitudes, and behaviors from your miraculous self. So first we'll form your miraculous self. And it's so easy, it'll just sound way too easy. Set your intention that you want your spirit and your deep inner human wisdom to create your miraculous self. Give permission for that to happen and just pretend it's happening. And let go of figuring out what any of these words mean. Your spirit knows what it is. It knows what your deep inner human wisdom is. It knows what your essence is. So just imagine your miraculous self is being created now. And then just imagine you have one now. And set your intention that what we're about to do is going to clear some of the programming and could be karma, contracts. It's going to clear and heal some of what allows other people's energy to be stuck in your space. And I guarantee you, everybody watching this has other people's energy stuck in your space. You came in that way, started again in the womb. We're all full of a lot of other people's energy. So in this process, we're just going to clear the Velcro, the roots that these energies hook into. And it's super, super simple. The symbol of fire is used by lots of spiritual groups and religions, and it's a worldwide symbol of transmutation. Whether it's the phoenix bird, that the old burns up and the new arises. So your unconscious mind knows what that means, that fire can transmute. And just imagine in front of you, there's a sacred fire. And you don't have to be a good visualizer. If you see it clearly, that's fine. If you just pretend that you see it, works perfectly well. Then ask your miraculous self to start identifying programming, beliefs, karma, anything that other people's energy gets stuck on. And we're not trying to do it all at once, just whatever's the right amount for right now. And imagine that your miraculous self turns those into little symbols, and it starts sending those symbols off into the fire to be transmuted. And then there's a little trick you can do. Ask your miraculous self to send off into the fire anything that would block you from releasing those other things. So anything that would block you from releasing a block. And they can go off in the fire. And then anything that would block you from releasing what blocks you from releasing what blocks you, that can go in the fire. And as these burn up, your miraculous self is downloading into you wisdom and knowledge, concepts, skills, abilities, attitudes, and behaviors that will help you enhance your life. And then we'll do it one more time. Send off to the fire anything else that your miraculous self wants to release right now that causes other people's energy to be stuck in you. Turns them into symbols, sends them off to the fire. Also any blocks to releasing those blocks. Also any blocks to releasing the blocks to releasing the blocks. And go into the fire now and just the sacred flame, just dissolve them. Turn them back into pure energy. And then allow another download to come in. And just as with the fire, symbols are a very powerful way to, symbols and metaphors, access your unconscious and spiritual abilities. So imagine there's a magnet floating out in front of you, at least maybe 10 feet away, 3 meters. And give your miraculous self permission now to send other people's energy out that it wants you to release now. So now that you dissolve some of the Velcro, whatever energies it wants you to release now that are other people's, go out to that magnet. And then that magnet drops into the earth, and the earth recycles the energy. So it'll either send the energy back to the other person if that's the right thing, or it'll just transmute it back into pure energy. Float a second magnet high above your head and let it clear from your shoulders through your head, going up above your head at least 3 meters, 9 feet. And any energies from other people or groups that you're ready to release now can go up to that magnet. Drop that magnet into the earth and let the earth recycle it and transmute it. And one of my favorites, put a magnet way behind you. A lot of energies literally hide behind us. And let it clear the back of your body and energy field and the back of your chakras. And then drop that into the earth and let the earth recycle it. And then the fourth and last magnet is already in the earth, and it cleans especially from the base of your spine, down through your legs, feet, going down at least 1 meter, 3 feet below your feet, and your whole energy field around your legs. Release into that magnet. And just what other people's energies will leave easily now. If there's any tug of war, leave it alone for now. Just whatever just gently goes off. And let the earth transmute that energy. You recycle it. And I only know a couple of quotes from Aristotle. One is, nature abhors a vacuum. Nature abhors a vacuum, meaning if you leave a space, something will fill it. So you always want to fill up. So ask your miraculous self to fill you up with more of your authentic essence and with support of earth and universal energies. It's just coming in, filling your cells and your DNA, your organs, body systems, chakras, energy channels, energy field in you and around you in all directions. And then I like to do things the easy way. Most people have you ground yourself into the earth, which is great. I figure the earth is more powerful than I am, so I let the earth ground me. So imagine giving the earth permission to send a column of energy from the crystalline heart of the earth up near the base of your spine. And give the earth permission, and this is important, to ground only your authentic energy into your body. So it's grounding only your authentic energy into your body. And a fun way to imagine that is, you can imagine there's a point of light for every cell in your body, in your energy field. but they get out of alignment. So when the earth grounds you, every point of light goes in the cell it belongs in. And there's something in biology we call apoptosis. Apoptosis. And it's the ability of a cell to dissolve itself if it's not healthy for the body. So when the points of light go into your cells, if it's a cell that is good for your body, it's revitalized, made more healthy. If it's a cell that's not good for your body, it just turns on the apoptosis and does what it's supposed to do, which is dissolve. And then from that grounding, imagine Mother Earth, Mother Nature energies are gently coming up inside of you, energies that will nurture you, heal you, love you, acknowledge you, and help you manifest. And any energies your miraculous self wants you to release, just gently go down that grounding into the earth. So what nurtures you is coming up. What you're ready to release gently goes down. And then wiggle your toes and fingers. And we like to call it pet your body, stomp your feet, stretch a little bit, come back into your body. By the way, anybody listening, if you're doing anything after this that requires safety, set your intention and give permission that your miraculous self and your unconscious mind will make sure you're grounded, safe, and alert. Grounded, safe, and alert. Grounded, safe, and alert. And for extra credit, set your intention that tonight and for the next 4 nights, part of the time when you're sleeping, your unconscious mind and your miraculous self will review what you did, what we just did, and it will infuse it with wisdom and knowledge and concepts and skills and abilities, attitudes and behaviors from your miraculous self. It'll take the benefits and make them deeper and richer and wider. It'll make them higher and multidimensional. And while you're sleeping, they'll automatically be integrated into your mind, emotions, body, and energy field. And that can happen while you sleep soundly, deeply, wake up feeling refreshed. And that's the end of it.
Thank you, Art. I appreciate that. It's certainly about getting out of your own way, isn't it? And letting that divine wisdom come through, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have no doubt a lot of people will get a lot out of that. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. You're very welcome.
Mate, last question for you. Where can people find out more about your work? And we'll have links in the show notes, but it's always good to share it out loud as well.
Well, a great place to start, if they go to Blockbuster, like one word, Blockbuster, the number 3.com, Blockbuster numeral 3.com. If they sign up there, it's free. They'll get 4 videos that will take them through this process and some other really powerful processes so they can really, while they watch it, they'll get benefits, but then they can learn how to do it. And that's a great way to start. Also, not sure if this is a good time in Australia, but 10 a.m. on Sundays, which wouldn't be Sunday for you, I guess. I do a meditation every week called changetheworldfromyourlivingroom.com, changetheworldfromyourlivingroom.com. And we do a world healing, and then everybody gets an individual healing. And again, I don't know if that's a good time for you.
You're in PT time, right? Pacific.
Yeah.
So 10 a.m. Pacific time. Yeah, people will be able to jump on and figure that out. I think it'd be like a 6 a.m. or 5 a.m. for us, which is
not too bad. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm up at that time. I got 2 little kids, mate. They got
there you go.
No time at all.
And a lot of people tell me it's the highlight of their week. So
amazing. Well, listen, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. And I really enjoyed our conversation today and you sharing your wisdom. And I'll continue to promote this here in Australia. Well, globally now. There's people tuning in from all over the world to the podcast.
Well, I will promote it too. And a real honor to be on your show. I love the messages you're putting out there. And like I said, the one with you and your associate talking about some like real key principles, I was going, yeah. So I'm really pleased to be on your show.
Yeah. Thanks, Art. Much gratitude, my man.
Hey.
Thank you.